I met Renalom, one of the members of Combatants for Peace in 2009 in Rio de Janeiro, and there he explained the model of the polarized theater. And I was impressed with that, very impressed with that story, and I started to get in contact with Ren more, and I started realizing the impact of the work here in Israel and Palestine. Then there was the opportunity of the Emotive program to do an exchange program with Combatants for Peace and Formaat. And I was very attracted to the idea that this model was important for the city of Rotterdam. Then I started to think on who can I take with me to this venture. And I decided to have a diversity of people from different corners, different backgrounds.
Hello, I'm Joke Ellenkamp, and I'm working at Spaanmeijer. I'm general manager, and Spaanmeijer is a care organization who supports people who have psychiatric problems and are intellectually disabled.
My name is Wendy. I'm a manager at DOC in Rotterdam. I have 2 teams of youth workers in Rotterdam South specifically.
I'm Tamer, and I'm working at Formaat as a joker. And we had an exchange program with Combatants for Peace last year. They came to visit us.
I'm Peter. Good morning. Peter Kruis. Peter Kraus. At the University of Applied Sciences. And I think it's really good to teach the students about this method.
I am Meluki Kada, a senior advisor by Movisie, the Netherlands Institute for Social Work.
Hello, my name is Eugene van Erven. I'm a senior lecturer in theatre studies at Utrecht University and artistic director of the International Community Arts Festival in Rotterdam.
So you started with games?
Games, games, you know, because games are the embodiment of social life.
Right, exactly.
They have settings, they have rules, they have consent, and within that we found our freedom. Then we developed this, you know, intersubjective work, as I call it, or I would say, you know, big words like liberation of the individual, and humanizing and rehumanizing yourself and the other. And then we get to work with what we call the intergroup relations, the collective identity, the self-perception and the perception of the other, projection, as I said, you know, in the discussion. You start to feel stereotypes, prejudices, and you can unpack some issues that the groups are concerned with.
It's about the diversity inside of the unified machine, and the purpose it was to show every one of us how hard it is to work in complex groups, because we were like not binational groups, we were mixed, all of us. So it was the language barrier and also the culture barriers and the historical difference between us. So even what we saw in the workshop, that it was all joyful machine.
Your wildest dream, your biggest fantasy, your biggest dream, not fantasy, dream. We're going to talk a while through images. And we're going to look at it, and we're going to all have our own observations of that image.
Even in my ideal wild image, I cannot imagine it or accept it as someone else. And then in some period, like in some point, I said, okay, I'm gonna agree. If this is what is going on here, then I will agree and to go on. We respect the you're coming.
Right.
We respect that you came here, and we want in your first day to feel the joy and the happy, and to feel, because you're going to have a really intense week of seeing the occupation in your eyes. And maybe it was in the non-conscious of us. It's also polarized, because what you will see outside, it's not what we brought to you today.
People will be very surprised to hear that a terror attack came from somewhere. And that hilltop, the top of it has been declared by Israel as state land.
State land by Israel.
Israel declares it state land. I will talk a little bit more about what Israel does with lands exactly. But basically, once Israel declares a land state lands, according to Israeli law, it's okay for them to build settlements on it. So until 1948, the village of Waraja was actually on that other hill in front of us.
Camp when with me, I met with 7 people from Al-Aqsa Brigade with guns. They stopped with Khan. I told them this is Israeli, this is the army, and they support us. They sitting with Khan, speaking, laughing.
If you have a policy to make them integrate in the white society, to be part of the society, in jobs, in situation, in political parties, everywhere, I think they can manage and they can be part in the society. But if you keep them isolated in small places, groups, in very bad economical and social situation, they can lead to violence and disturbance.
Ja, dat is een prachtig appeltje.
Ja, zie je?
Ja.
No, we have Palestinians, they are allowed. Yeah, workers, for example, but minority. Come with the group, you know. They are from different districts, from the whole north.
And they come and go every day?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's settlement over there.
And to our left is Israel, no?
Let me take a picture of you two. Oh, this is because it's Area C.
Because it's Area C.
Yeah, the Israeli, they can't come here, the Israeli people. And the Palestinian people, they can't come here.
I had a conversation with Noor about, I really wonder what can you do with the anger you feel, because I really feel the anger and the pain too if you're here.
3 religions. We couldn't deny any one of them. Not Judaism, not Christianity. We believe in Jesus, we believe in Moses, we believe in Muhammad equally.
في الحمام.
سعد صباحكم صوروا الله يصبحه سعدوا
Political tours, and I'm also a member of the Combatants for Peace in Jerusalem, Bethlehem. In the movement, what I'm mainly doing is a house meeting to bring Israeli audience, especially youth before joining the army, and to give them an opportunity to meet with Palestinians and to have a different perspective of what they are regular to hear. And so before start talking about occupation, about what's happening, about the position of Palestinians today in the West Bank, the first thing that you need to organize is a meeting, is an opportunity for these people to get to know the other side.
What we wanted this week to be is that you will experience both experiences of the image that we are creating for Israelis and Palestinians, and as a byproduct for you, Dutch people, Europeans, the international community, and the truth that the stage always allow us to experience, that there is a despair, there are gaps that feel like we cannot bridge over them, that there are some hostility, suspicious, and so on.
And for me, it was most clearly when we went with the guide who told us about A, B, and C. Yes, and her story, and Noor has a response on her story. This was quite. This was so clear that there was a big difference.
What I saw in Israel was that they were able to make a transformation from being Israeli and becoming a tour guide. Instead of I'm Israeli and I'm going to tell you about what my problem is, I'm becoming a tour guide and I'm trying to be objective. So because of the dialogue, I think they were able to come with a new identity and start being a tour guide instead of an Israeli. But when I was in Palestine, I did not see any other identities.
It's less extreme, my reality, but seeing the total extreme of this complexity, it made me much more conscious about how this system works, and also how the difficulties, but also how to manage it.
Israelis are more on an intellectual level busy with the process, and the Palestinians is more of a life struggle motivation.
It's in a sense also what we saw in the workshop on Saturday, that the images of the Israelis were much more abstract.
Yes.
And there was a kind of mismatch of missing this framework of peaceful confrontation. Why? Because the approach was unilateral. We didn't go to the West Bank with Israeli and Palestinian, but only with Palestinian.
I think the reality is here we're talking about a workshop that has been going on for 10 years, involving 2 countries, and with all the messiness that is part of that. And I think I don't also agree that this was not a binational experience for us. Actually, it was trinational. But even when we were unilaterally dealing with either Adi or with Noor, the Israelis were always in the background. They were there like a specter. They were all, sometimes literally.
And sometimes by phone.
And sometimes by phone. Gen was constantly there on the phone.
This is also a result of years of polarized model, and I don't know if we can really understand the difference between Hamas and Fatah.
It's still only on Skype.
But they said, we don't want the Israelis yet to be there, but we want to work on a binational Gaza-West Bank conciliation first.
go home.